Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome to my channel. I was just making some colored strip papers this morning and I had everything out and an idea came in my head. So I don't know if anybody's done this before, but I thought this would be good for people who are new to crafting and you don't have a whole bunch of paper pads. And what I'm going to do is, because I have everything out, I'm going to make a paper pad book. All I did was I just went and got a book that I have for arting. And I got this like at the library and $5 a bag. But it's a nice book with newer paper. I don't want to use vintage paper in this book because we're going to really get it, wet. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint in this book. And I'm just going to color the pages, maybe do some stenciling, stamping, and close it up. I did grab out some parchment paper so that I can stick it between as it dries. But then when I need paper, if I need to make a quick flower, or I want to make a border, or I want to make some rolled beads, I already have my paper pad, just like you buy at the store, except it's your own, it's individual, it's unique, and it gives you something to do when you just want to do something, but you don't know exactly what you want to do. So I am going to leave the cover on this. I like the looks of this book. And but I don't want to get it all painty, so I'm going to leave that dust cover on there to start with. And then when you're all done, because you're just going to paint these and leave them in there. And then when you need a piece of painted paper, when you need a piece of, decorated paper, you just go through your book and say, that one will match my project. And when you get it all empty, well, then you use this book, you use the cover as a journal cover and make your own journal. So I am going to think about it a little bit. I'm not going to think about it a whole lot, but I am going to try and make sure that I put colors together that are not going to make mud, just so that my papers are actually pretty. And because these are going to be, just like if I had went to the store and bought a paper pad, these are going to be my papers to use as decorative papers. And I am just using a what is it, an AARP card. And then I can do one of two things. I can either take this extra paint and put it on the next page, or I can wipe it on my wipe off sheet and then use that as painty paper. So, and I'm just going to get color on every page, and I'm going to try, you can make it look distressed and not cover the whole page. I'm going to, for these first few pages, I'm going to do actual colored pages. I do want them to be fully covered. But at some point I might say, well, I want to do some distressed and not make them fully covered. If you don't like the looks of the words in the background, because this is just a regular book, you can go buy a what do they call them? People buy them all the time. Those little lined booklets that everybody gets at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to stick a piece of the parchment under here for a minute. Just kind of stop it from getting all over. And when you use the credit card like this, what happens is it kind of gets your paint on there pretty dry. So that way you don't have to worry so much about how long it's going to take to dry or whether it's going to stick. I still put parchment between it, but it's going to dry really quickly. So then when I made 6 pieces of parchment, so I think I'm going to do 6 pages this morning. And then by the time I'm done with those 6 pages, I will be able to go on to the next step, which is doing some paint through a stencil. So there we go. I have 2 really pretty color papers there. And this one, because it has so much on it, I'm going to take out, actually I got quite a bit of right in that spine, so I'm going to take that out of there, put a piece of parchment in, and go to the next page. And there we go. And I should have put the parchment in prior to doing this because now I have it there, but these are my painted papers, so it can look however it decides it wants to look. Let me see. I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to put this on here like this. Just to get that paint off of there a little bit. And I like the way that that looks too. Now I'll have to decide what I want to do. Maybe if I just do yellow on top, then we'll see this mess. And it will be a grunge page. We'll see the little bit of the color there. I'll put this one in here. And I'm going to pull some of this off of here and just put it down in places. Scrape it off. Just like that. Okay, and I think that I am going to just put yellow on this one. So, but yeah, I just thought you might like to make some of this for yourself so that you always have some kind of colored paper that you can use without having to make it. Sometimes it's like, oh, I want to make flowers. And I go and I look and it's like, you know, I don't really have any painting papers left. Or I have to figure out where am I going to store my painting papers. Well, this way you just store it right in your book. And when you want them, they're there to choose from. And I just thought this was a good idea. Something that I would really like to have. And once I finished my strips this morning, I just still wanted to play. And so I was trying to think, how do I want to play? And decided this was going to be the way. But thank you very much for all of your support for my channel. I really do appreciate that. And it's been a few weeks since I've really got to do much arting. And so this weekend my husband went to an archery tournament and well, actually like an archery retreat with 3 of my nephews. And so I had the whole weekend to myself. I'm working on a journal because Sonia got me addicted. And so I'm actually making a journal. And I pulled everything out on my table. And so I thought, well, I have it all here. I just need a little bit more paint over here. Well, I had everything out. I'm just going to leave it out all weekend. I just kind of move it aside when Papa and I have dinner. And I'm just going to play this weekend. Get a few things done maybe in between, but probably not much. I really just don't want to have the white edges because I do want to use this as painting paper. So I kind of want it to be covered. But yeah, so he just called and they're having a really good time. It's at a ski mountain. So he said that they did a lot of hiking. There we go. Now we have 2 pages done. And I could switch this out and not put it in there because it's wet, but that doesn't bother me. A little bit of this or that. I just kind of wanted the pages themselves, I wanted to kind of think it out. Sorry about that. I got a phone call. So I put blue and purple on this page and finished spreading that out while I was talking to my daughter. But so now what I'm going to do, I was going to do the stencil next, but because these pages are pretty plain, they don't really have much text on them. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to put just some background stamps, and I'm just going to use my StazOn. And this is just a script stamp that I have. So I'm just going to put that on there and just kind of, well, that didn't work very good. Maybe my StazOn is dried up. The hardest thing about when you heat with wood in the wintertime is it really likes to dry everything up. Okay, we'll see if that works. Give it a good press and give it time to actually make contact with the paper. And again, you don't have to press hard, you just have to give the ink time to soak off of the rubber and into your paper. And yes, my Stays On ink pad is dried up. So, what am I going to do? Now I don't want to put paint on my rubber stamps. Be right back in just a second. Okay, I'm back, and I went and got my new Stays On, and it's pretty dried up too. So what I did with the one that I started with, which is an older one, I just went ahead and I just took some rubbing alcohol, and this is I believe it's 90 or 91%. But I keep eyedropper bottles that I can peel the labels off. If I can't peel the labels off, I do not use them. But most of them you can peel the label right off, and then that's a good thing to put your own homemade what do you call them, alcohol inks in, or I always have a couple of them with rubbing alcohol in them, and I just put a little bit of rubbing alcohol on here and spread it around with the credit card, because it's older, but it's not, I didn't really figure that it was probably completely used up. It was just dried up. And because Stays On is an alcohol-based ink, I used rubbing alcohol. If you had a water-based ink, then you would use some water and glycerin. But and that seemed to bring it back. I do have a little bit in the background here. I don't know if you can see it, but that's how I like it, just really light in the background. On the next page, I've got this number stamp, and so I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of put this on there just kind of randomly, not even necessarily right side up or straight or anything like that. And it's not going on real dark, but it is going on. And if I let this sit for a little while, which I really didn't do, that would help even more. I do need to make sure I come into contact with the paper. And yeah, they're coming out nice and light, which is okay because that's exactly what I'm looking for, is just a little depth. Whoops. Just a little depth in the background. So every layer that you put on just gives your paper just that much more depth. It just really does make a difference. That's one of the things that I've learned over my time, is that, you just kind of need that. Some people say, why do you put something down and then you cover it up? Well, usually you don't hardly ever cover up all of something that you put on there. And just that little bit of plain old yellow paint that's showing through, if it has just a little bit of inking on it, it just makes that difference. It doesn't make this like bright yellow spot just stick out. So think about layering. And then of course these papers we're going to use just like a paper pad, so they don't have to be completely covered or anything like that, because we're going to do something else with them. And at that point we may put more layers. But I kind of thought that I would do a little stamping, a little stenciling, and then that is where I would leave them until I needed to use them for something. Okay, and then if you want to, you can, just like sometimes you see the pretty paper pads and they'll have like a focal point in a corner or something like that. So you can do that also. I just grabbed this butterfly stamp. Now, I don't really think that, I'm not sure that I'm going to get enough ink off of this pad to make it as dark as I might want it for a focal point image, but let's just give it a really good tap and see what we get. If it's too light, that's okay. Then it's just a background image. And I definitely think it's going to be a little bit too light. Maybe a little bit more rubbing alcohol on here. And this is an older pad, so this pad probably does have less ink in it. But I wanted to try it before I did it on my new pad. I've been trying to find a Stays On refill when I go to the craft stores, but I haven't seen Stays On refill because I buy Stays On all the time. And I'm just going to put this right down here in this corner and see what kind of an image that I get. Yep, very backgroundy. Definitely didn't show up like a focal point, but that's okay. Let me put this away and do just a little bit of stenciling on these. And then that's as far as I'm going to take these. Excuse me. I think on the blue I'm going to put some white stenciling. And I am going to kind of line it up now because I think that this page, I'm going to do the whole page with just a little bit of white. And then maybe I'll just put a little bit over here. And I know that I got my sponges out. Here they are. And whenever you're stenciling, now this stencil right here I know came from the Dollar Tree. So these are really nice stencils, and the really nice thing about them is they're stick down stencils, which makes it so you get much less ink through underneath your stencil because it's stuck down. I'm going to cover the whole thing, but I'm not going to necessarily make sure that the paint is even in thickness. I do need a little bit more to do that, and then I'll line it up to do the bottom of the page because, like I said, these are going to be just like a pad of paper. So we're not going to do these as mixed media-ish. It will be more of an actual piece of paper that you might see at a store. You know, it has a little pattern to it or something. And there we go. And then I'm just going to kind of line this one up like if I can. Right there. And then just finish the bottom of the page. A little bit distressed looking because I'm not doing it totally even. But then again, still very cohesive. And then you could use this. Had a few spots where there were actually just straight lines. I don't like straight lines from my sponge. And there we go. And that looks really quite pretty. So now we could use that for the front of a card. You could use it to mat and layer on the front of a card. You could use them for so many different things. I think what I'm going to do now, because I like those paper pads where they kind of have something in the corner. And so that's what I'm going to do with this one. I'm going to just kind of start up here, kind of thin, and then just round around till I get down to here. And this one I'm going to do it kind of dark, make it as solid as I can, so that it really shows up, so that that corner really shows that stenciling. Let's see what that looks like. Ooh, I love that. And I'm going to do the same thing down in this corner. That looks really pretty. I like that a lot. Going to just start with a little bit of a thin piece right there and then just round it around until I get to there. Get a little bit more paint. Make it kind of thick. And there we go. I really like the way that that page looks. I love that. And again, you could use that for the front of a card, put a big sentiment in the middle, and I like the way that looks. I'm going to put a piece of parchment in there and decide what to do on this one. And on that one, because it's so light, I think I'm going to go with dark. I think I'm going to go with My tendencies are always to highlight with like black and white. But I think what I'm going to do with this one, I think I'm going to do orange. Because that will make the paper just more cohesive in color. It won't be so bold. I can always add black when I decide what I'm going to do with it. If I want something bold on it. But I might just want a piece of paper that is not so bold. So this one I am going to cover with the stencil in orange. Like I said, do a little bit of thinking with this one. You know, it's not that hard to think things through. I know that at times we just want to throw stuff down, and that works just as well, and that is just as fun. But because we're going to use this as paper later, you might want to think about what the design looks like. You want it to actually have a bit of a design. Or at least that's what I'm going for this time. Kind of want to make sure that I have it everywhere. And there we go. And that looks pretty. Now I'm going to just kind of line this back up on here. I can't line this one up like I did the flowers, but I can make sure that I don't have a big gap between them. And just finish this one up. A lot of times when I'm stenciling, when I know that this is the end of what I'm going to be doing in orange, oops, I picked up some white with that one. Then I just kind of use my sponge and press harder, because there's a lot of paint in that sponge. And I don't want to really necessarily get out more paint, then I have too much paint. So I just go slower, give it a chance to squish out and grab a hold of the paper. And then I don't have to get any more. Paint out. And there we go. So look at those speckles, look really nice. Now do I want to do it on the other side? I actually think I like this page like it is. It's got the background stamping and it's got the color. So I think I'm going to leave that one just like that. Grab a piece of parchment to put in there. And then this is the last one. So on that one, I have some borders here. And I thought that that might look nice in black on the corner. So we'll see how that looks. And then I'll have to see, I've never tried lining it up before. My black's a little bit thick. But I think I'm going to try and line it up. See if I can to actually go around the next corner. Now you want to make sure this is a hard plastic stencil and it does not have any sticky on the back. So on this one, you want your sponge to be quite dry and you want to go fairly slow to hold it in place to have less chance to get a whole bunch of paint underneath. Sometimes that looks great, but for my border, I don't think, I don't want it to spread too much. I would prefer that it just be where it's supposed to be. But if it gets out from under the lines, that's fine too. It is homemade painted paper. That looks really cool. I'm going to try and... Okay, if I line up this one, I'm way too far in. And I don't think it would look good doing that, so I'm not going to do that. I'll just put it up in this corner also. Just get my sponge kind of dry and take my time. So yeah, I'm gonna, whenever I get out my paints and stuff, I'm going to use this. Now, people do make their painty books like where they roll their brayers off or they scrape their paint onto them. But I thought with this book, I'm going to make more of a patterned paper. so that I don't have to go buy patterned paper at the craft store. And there we go. I like that. And again, these will work great for journaling pages, for card fronts, but you can rip them up and make beads. You can do so many different things with them. Not sure what I want to do. On this side, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a little bit since I have some black left. And I do really love black with like orange and red. And I'm just going to do just a few. On this one, I am going to do it randomly, because I do like the looks of random. So, but yeah, so this is a good way for you to have your own painty paper or your own paper pad that you've made. You don't have to go spend $20 on a paper pad. And it gives you something to do. Great fill-in project just to play with when you don't know what you want to do. Or you just want to do something, and you don't have to haul out a whole lot of items for this. Just some paint and some stencils in your book, and a credit card, and a sponge. And stamps if you want to. Now see, I have a straight line here, and I really don't like that. I'm going to kind of try and line that up a little bit like that so I don't make too much of a mess right there. And then I'm just going to kind of go up to that. And I think I had too much paint on my sponge, so in that area I think I'm going to have a big smudge. There we go. Not too bad. Got a spot here that I'm missing. I'm going to do just this one little swirl up in the corner. There. Cool. So here's my paper pad. It's my paper pad book, and I've got 2 pages there, 2 pages there, and 2 pages there, all ready to use if I decide that I want to make something. And I'm just going to continue in this book until it's done. Now remember, I don't have to finish this book before I can use those pages. If I need painty paper later today, I can rip this page out and use it. So don't think that this is something, I always do things and it's like, oh, well, I have to do the whole thing. You don't have to do the whole thing. Do it as you feel like doing something. And then it just winds up being fun. Don't make crafting a chore. It should just be a real enjoyment and just a nice relaxing time. This is my favorite page. This one especially is my favorite page. So I really do appreciate you watching. Thank you very much for stopping by. I hope that you make your own paper pad, and I hope that you have fun playing with it. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.